I gave everything I have to try my best under the circumstances to make the world better. And the way I got there was basically sitting myself down early on and having a conversation that if you had all the money in the world,
Oh.
what would you do with this one precious life? And what I noticed is that people who do have all the money in the world think about building a life of purpose and impact. And what if I really intentionally started there? And that's really what led to the Global Good Fund eventually.
Hello, amazing humans, and welcome to episode number 310 of the Game On Girlfriend podcast. I have a question for you. Have you ever had a great idea? Like something that sort of pulls at your heart that you know your values are tied into, that you think is amazing, and you're like, oh my gosh, I could never do that. Oh my gosh, who would even help me with that? Why do I even think that I should have this idea? It literally can go all that way. Like, who am I to even think about this idea, right? Do you know what I'm saying? If you've had that feeling, you are going to love today's podcast guest. Her name is Carrie Rich, and she has started something so incredible. I literally have head to toe chills. She is making a massive impact in the world. I want you to listen for how many human beings she has supported through her ideas and through her courage and through her tenacity and I want to say openness to the support of other people. It is a very large number. It's 11 million people that she has impacted because one day, she had the courage to interact with someone who could make a difference. And then she followed that up with another courageous step. And then she followed that up with another courageous step. And I want you to listen to her story with an open heart and open mind and a connection to the value of your own ideas and the values that matter most to you. When I asked Carrie to share her bio with us, this is what she shared. I believe in making the world a better place through business and leadership. And that's why I co-founded the Global Good Fund over a decade ago to invest in high potential, overlooked social entrepreneurs. Many entrepreneurs need access to capital in order to scale. And so I wanted to found and manage the Global Impact Fund, which is dedicated to investing in socially impactful businesses, primarily led by overlooked founders. My fourth book, Impact the World, Live Your Values, and Drive Changes as a Citizen Statesperson, was published by Wiley in May of 2022. And is now a Wall Street Journal and Amazon bestseller. And I give back by serving on corporate and nonprofit boards and by volunteering in my local community with our 3 young children. You guys, this is a really special episode. And the reason I'm saying that is because this is a human being, again, who took that one courageous step. Not only did she do that, and I hope that inspires you to take the courageous step you know you need to be taking. And I know you know which one I'm talking about because it just popped into your head. I want you to listen for that. I want you to listen to her story about the man who slid napkins across a table and asked her to start thinking about her financial life in years, not so much in numbers, and what she did with that information. This podcast interview does have the capacity to change the trajectory of your life if you choose to actually pull it towards you. I say go for it. So let's pop in those earphones and let's get to it. Carrie, welcome to the Game On Girlfriend podcast. So happy you're here with us today.
Thank you for having me, Sarah.
Oh my goodness. So we're like touching all the things near and dear to my heart. Women, money, burnout, joy, love, life. Hello. All the things that are actually possible for us. But before we dive in to all of the gooey goodness that you are about to share with us, I really want to know, when reading your bio, we've all just listened to it, knowing everything that you could have done with your life. Why is this what you've chosen to do with your one and only life on planet Earth?
Sarah, I wake up every day so excited to try to make the world a better place and completely exhausted at the end of the day when my head hits the pillow. I have no problem falling asleep because I've left it all on the field, all in the ring, all in the court, whatever analogy you want. I gave everything I have to try my best under the circumstances to make the world better. And so I feel grateful to get to move through the world that way. And the way I got there was basically sitting myself down early on and having a conversation that if you had all the money in the world,
Yes.
What would you do with this one precious life?
Mm.
And what I noticed is that people who do have all the money in the world think about building a life of purpose and impact. And what if I really intentionally started there?
Mm.
And that's really what led to the Global Good Fund eventually. So I thought the business of helping people was healthcare at the time. And so I'd gone to graduate school and was volunteering as part of graduate school in a health system. And I got the absolute worst jobs in a hospital setting. So it's pretty nasty to be mopping the floor in a hospital, or
Yeah.
I was folding the laundry, pushing the snack cart, taking attendance, whatever I was tasked with doing. And I really tried to do the best I possibly could, no matter what level of work it was. So if I was singing and mopping that floor, or asking if folks wanted seconds from the crackers on the snack cart, just trying to, it's not fun to be in the hospital. So how could we make this more joyful as an experience for everyone there? And I just tried to do the best I could. And I'm still doing that 15 years later. And really the way that went was the CEO of the hospital, the whole system actually, collection of hospitals, walked into one of the meetings where I was taking attendance. And so by default, he had to introduce himself to me. And I figured everyone asks a hospital CEO or a health system CEO about healthcare. So I thought, this person has thousands of employees. What could I ask him that would be a little different? And so I eventually got a conversation with him about living a life of purpose,
Wow.
building impact and legacy. And that turned into a job, helping him translate his vision for the future of health in the community. And what I saw is that when he invested in my leadership development, I could in turn grow the business and positively impact the community we serve through the business. And so the premise became, how could we replicate that? How could we find high potential leaders across the United States and globally,
Mm.
and pair them with seasoned business executives like my then boss, now co-founder and board member, to put those two groups together as a catalyst for good and impact, and put some targeted capital behind that pairing. And so that's what eventually became the Global Good Fund. And to date, we've impacted 11.6 million lives
It's
in
incredible.
70 countries globally.
Carrie, that is, I'm like, I don't even, what? That's so incredible. I don't even have words for that. I mean, that is to go from a meeting taking attendance to affecting 11 million lives. I mean, when I say that to you, even now, what does that feel like for you as a human being? I
We're
mean,
still at it every day. And
wow.
I have nothing. I drop the letter in the mail, and there's nothing I won't do to roll up my sleeves
Mm.
and do what needs getting done to try to make the world a better place in whatever little way it is. And I think the people I admire most, nothing's too good for them to
Mm.
be resilient about achieving their goals.
Agreed. No, I think it's a really important thing you just said. I hope people really heard that. I think that is the key to not just impact, but to happiness and to living a life that you love, is really getting in there and doing what needs to be done regardless. And I think that can get lost sometimes in the busyness of life, or like, oh, that's not my job, or I have to do this or whatever.
Right.
To remember everything needs to get done and everything is important.
Yes. And it's easier to say that's not my job.
Yeah.
And setting boundaries is something I'm sure we'll talk about. And nothing is too good. Nothing's beneath me, nothing, and also nothing is above. Like I'm going to figure this out, and we're going to find a way, and we're going to move the world forward.
Love this. So, can I ask a slightly personal question about that moment in the attendance meeting?
Yes.
How did you find the courage to do that? Like, how did you, like, there had to be a moment where you were like, what do like, there had to be that feeling. I don't know. I would just love to know as a human, because I know we have people listening who are like, they have this idea, they have this thing, and they just haven't figured out a way to talk to the right people about it. How did you do that in
Yes.
that moment?
So there were two moments in the actual meeting where I was taking attendance. I was nervous because the CEO walks in and everyone sits up a little straighter.
Of course.
This is a big multi-billion-dollar organization. And I decided to use humor. I was in graduate school, I had bills to pay. And so as he was signing, I made a joke that he was signing my student tuition, signing the bill. And it was a joke, and it made him look up and pause and say, who is this person taking attendance? Because normally you don't joke while taking attendance. And so that humor caught him off guard in a good way. And then I had gone on LinkedIn and just studied the email structure for everyone working at the health system. And I'd followed up by contacting his assistant. And I asked for a meeting on living a life of purpose because when I'd gone online and researched the CEO, he had been building community infrastructure in Haiti longer than I'd been alive at that point, while simultaneously growing one hospital into a multi-billion-dollar health system that really existed to serve community. And so this was someone I really wanted to learn from, both from a social impact standpoint and a business perspective. And so I figured he has thousands of employees. Why should he speak to this graduate student? And I asked his assistant, would he be willing to have a conversation with me about living a life of impact? And, you know, to my surprise and delight, he said yes. She said yes. And I got so dressed up, Sarah. I was in my dark suit. I had my hair pulled back in a bun. I had my stockings, my closed-toed pumps. I was all ready to go. And the meeting went so wonderfully. I just didn't want it to end.
Oh,
and so I thought at the end of the meeting, what could I say that would make this type of conversation continue? And so I blurted out, would you write a book with me?
wow.
And he said, sure. What will we write a book about? And I had no idea. I jumped up out of my chair. You know, I had composure this whole time. I just jumped out of my chair, jumped up, and I said, I'm so excited. We're going to write a book together. I don't know what it'll be about, but you just said yes. And so for the next year, he and I and another co-author would get together on Friday afternoons and come in and structure questions. And he would pontificate answers and we would document it. And when we put all that together, it turned into a book, which turned into a job opportunity, structuring his vision for the future of healthcare, which then turned into eventually co-founding an organization together.
That's gorgeous. I'm a little bit speechless right now, which is very hard to do to me. But that is incredible. Wow. Wow. So it was one moment of courage after another moment of courage after another moment of courage. And I love the question you asked, how can I keep this conversation going?
And Sarah's idea of courage is hard for me because I don't consider myself a particularly courageous person. And I'm learning that it's okay to be scared because I was terrified in all of these situations.
Yeah.
And my approach was to learn, was to engage. And that was not so scary to me.
Yeah.
You know, wanting to ask more questions or engage and continue a really fabulous conversation, that's not scary because it's already going on. So I never thought of it as so courageous, but I think the key was finding something that feels natural and easy and flows, whether it's humor or something that's exciting and meaningful or learning from the other person. That made it really less scary.
Yeah. That curiosity is key, man. Isn't it? Like, yes. Just like, hey, what can you teach me? I don't know. Like that sort of feeling, I think is so cool. But, you know, I mean, the definition of courage isn't like acting when you're not scared, right? Courage is actually acting when you are
intellectually
scared.
know this.
Yes,
and
but it doesn't feel like,
you know,
it doesn't feel that way. I know, but
right.
that is a beautiful story. I mean, wow. I mean, I have a phrase I use that's actually not so glamorous, but I say it's really important we eat our own dog food, which is like whatever we preach that we're actually doing. And I know you have, you know, sort of this values to velocity idea. And it sounds to me like you really leaned on your values, even in these moments, to create the velocity you're now living. Do I have that right? Like, does that seem like that's what you actually did? You ate your own dog food and did this?
Yes. And I think it's been a really important part of my life to be values driven and to practice what we preach or have the medium be the message. I think what we built today is an impact ecosystem. So what I just described to you is the Global Good Fund, which is a nonprofit organization that finds entrepreneurs across the planet who have already taken a brave dive from the airplane and are building a parachute on the way down. They have a company that exists. They're solving a local need in their community through lived experience. We know it needs to be addressed. and they're ready, they have the humility to want to grow in terms of their personal leadership development, to have a ripple effect in growing their business and positively impacting the world. And then what we realized is that some of these entrepreneurs went on to need access to capital.
Yeah.
And many other entrepreneurs that are from underrepresented communities and are not necessarily who Silicon Valley is attracting were running smart businesses that had opportunities financially and were just overlooked. And so we saw that as a business opportunity.
Mm.
And that's what led to creating Global Impact Fund, which is a family of venture capital funds that takes equity investments in for-profit companies that exist to fulfill a social environmental purpose, a mission. And so they're do good and do well is the concept there. And then the third leg of the impact ecosystem is a consulting practice called Global Good Amani that helps other organizations and companies to impact the world through their business, whatever their mission may be. And so we have a team all in the global South, except for me. And I learn every day from this fabulous team of really talented professionals who are doing projects like cultural diplomacy in the Middle East and leadership development on the continent of Africa and supply chain management for luxury watches from an ethical sourcing and leadership development perspective. And it's incredible to me that these values of doing good and doing well and practicing what we preach can be imbued, whether you're talking about philanthropy, venture capital investing, or helping businesses grow themselves.
Or luxury watches, right? And allowing that value system to move through. That is a beautiful example of the gamut that this can run. This like allowing the values to really lead. And when we step into the values, what becomes possible. Wow.
Yes. And it takes an open mind. You know, it's like, wow, this really is possible. You have to believe that first. And then the world shows you, you know, but being open-minded to the fact that this really is possible to do good and do well at the same time and help other people do that too, just has been such a professional and personal gift in my life.
Oh, I can imagine. I can imagine. And as you're talking to these entrepreneurs, these founders about, you know, what they're going through or their next courageous step, I'm just totally curious. What do you find besides the access to capital, which I know is a real obstacle for so many business owners? What do you find really shifts for people as they start sort of getting in contact with you guys and they start understanding what the impact could be? They believe it, but they're starting to see something different. What do you notice the most in the human beings as they go through and spend time with you guys and learn from you and work with you?
So these are really capable, talented entrepreneurs who just don't come from a network that is going to provide a friends and family round. That's not the community fabric. These are entrepreneurs who have lived experiences that are very relevant to solving the greatest issues of our time. And they've built MVPs or started a business that is starting to work. It's starting to take off. They're ready to go more deeply into the community they serve or more broadly. It's perhaps starting to become profitable. And these are very humble people who say, we want leadership development support to take it to the next level. And when Global Good Fund looked out across the planet, we found organizations that were providing financial support or coaching and capital for the business or said they were about leadership, but actually 0% of the money went to supporting the leadership of the founder.
I just got chills. Yeah.
Especially when you're backing entrepreneurs from communities where people have had to move mountains and bust through walls just to get to where they are already. First of all, you know you're taking a bet on a really resilient human being. And second of all, it's not enough to just back the business. We really need to take a chance on people, on human beings, on individuals. Those are the people who will have outsized impact and a ripple effect. And so we invest in leadership and we find really talented entrepreneurs. We provide a 12-month fellowship program with access to coaching, mentors who have run $40 million to $60 billion companies in the C-suite for one-on-one mentoring, capital, a peer network, so that when you look to your left and your right, you realize you're not alone. There's all kinds of people across the world navigating so many of these same issues, and we're not alone. and then handholding, because it's really, life is hard,
Yeah.
never mind as an entrepreneur. And
Yeah.
those are some of the challenges that get talked about are, these are not the expectations of my culture, of my family.
Hmm.
I need wellness support. I'm working all the time. I
Yeah.
need support and mental health, wellness. I need to take care of myself. Those are often some of the challenges that entrepreneurs are facing. And then eventually, when the business is working, access to capital becomes one of them. And by that point, our job is to shine a light and get out of the way, because these are
Mhm.
really talented entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really appreciate what you said about the grit too. You already know these are people who are going to get up when it gets tough. They're going
Yes,
to keep going. You reminded me early on in my career, I got to help companies pitch for venture capital. It was one of the things I loved to do the most. And I remember sitting with some of the investors and just being like, what, how do you know this is like the trajectory of the business isn't known yet. The projections, the financial projections are hopeful, but we don't know if that's actually what's going to come to fruition. How do you choose your people? And they were like, we look at the people. We see the people. We believe in their courage, their confidence, and we know whether or not they believe in themselves. And I'm really hearing you echo that, and that the humans who are attracted to work with you guys and really dive in, they have already shown the world that they have that level of confidence and grit. It's huge.
absolutely.
Amazing.
And I would say what we look for philanthropically, there are additional filters from a venture capital, wearing a venture capital hat. Philanthropically, we are the cheerleaders all day long and making sure that resources align to support the leadership development of the entrepreneur, the individual. From a venture capital standpoint, there's a fiduciary expectation
Hmm.
by the investors to return on capital. And we take that really seriously. And that's actually hard, because when you go from being a cheerleader to wearing a different hat and providing additional filters, what I share with entrepreneurs is it's the same business filters that are used for everyone.
Mm.
And so it's on us as entrepreneurs to make sure that we know get educated, go online and figure out what those filters are, so that we as entrepreneurs come to the table ready to pitch investors, because investors are asking the same questions to everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. And you want to have them be prepared and know what the answers are and actually be able to do this well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I
Get
love
access to
that.
capital.
Yeah, I know, right? Please, it's such a turnkey, like, oh my gosh, it's so the lifeblood of the business. So, in looking at this, I know you also
Yes.
talk a lot about women, specifically redefining success, looking at investing and sort of taking charge in a different way and using what's available to us in a different way. What do you think is the most important for any woman listening to understand about redefining success and investing?
I would tell you and listeners honestly that men have been a really important part of my journey as a woman,
Mm,
critically important.
say more. I love
And
this.
yeah, if not for the men in my life, I wouldn't be where I am for sure. I have very, very supportive husband, board chair, co-founder, COO. I mean, you name it. There's just a support system of men
Mm,
trying to help, and women. And I think let's not leave out half of the population here, because men really can be a support system to leverage. And as an
mm,
example of that, I'll share when, I work a lot, and our board members got concerned for me about how much I was working. And at one point, our then board chair sat me down, and I thought we were going to lunch, a casual lunch. And he basically staged an intervention
wow.
and said,
Wow.
you are going to burn yourself out
Mm,
if you keep trying to be everything to everyone all the time. What do
wow.
you want to do really, really well? And what can you delegate that is not the highest and best use of your time? And he wasn't just talking about at work, he was also talking about at home. And I'd never thought about that
Mm,
before. And had he not sat me down, I don't think I would have thought about it until it was a little late. And now I've learned to determine the things that really matter to me are quality time with the people I love and care about.
mm,
And from a business standpoint, there's a few things that I'm decent at, and the rest, I'm probably not the best person to do that job. And so those are tasks and responsibilities, and someone else should own that. And
mhm.
I should make sure they have what they need to do the best job they possibly can. So I would just share, for me, I love getting to work with both men and women, and men have been a really important part of my support system.
I love hearing that so much. You have no idea. I love, I mean, I work with women 24/7, right? So I love hearing because I do think that is where we can get the most power out of all of our combined intelligence is when we've
Yes.
learned as genders, as humans, as races to really pull on our strengths and support each other like that. I'm so happy to hear you say that. It's refreshing. I think it's honest. I think it's like quote unquote correct. I'm going to say, right, for us to actually be like that for each other is just beautiful. And so for you, is part of redefining success for you, has it been really leaning on the support structures around you and listen? I'm really hearing you also listen. Like if someone staged an intervention, been like, you're being way too proactive. Like we need you to breathe or you're going to burn out. Is that how you sort of redefine success for yourself, is learning how to lean on others?
I've definitely learned how to lean on others. I think the other piece of defining and redefining success is for me to understand what enough looks like.
Oof.
And
Yeah.
here's how that played out for me. So my boss was the CEO of this health system, and we'd co-founded Global Good Fund. And I had gone to him and said, I would like to leave this steady, secure, you know, opportunistic
Yeah.
healthcare setting where the CEO is my boss to go start work for a startup nonprofit with no benefits, some startup capital, and here are my dreams. And he said, he pushed across the desk a stack of napkins and said, do you have a financial life plan?
Mm.
And I said, I don't even know what that is.
It's like, what does that
And
mean? Yeah.
right. And so he handed me the stack of napkins, and I was 25 years old at the time, and he helped me think through my life in increments of 2 to 3 years at first, and then 5 years, and eventually 10 years through death.
Wow.
And it was not a morbid exercise. It was actually a really inspiring exercise because I do have ambitions. I wanted to have children. I wasn't even married. I was not there anywhere close to being there yet, but I wanted to travel. I wanted to be a philanthropist. I wanted to continue thinking about higher education. There were all these ambitions that I had with my life, and I hadn't put pen to paper
Mm.
on how I would fund that. And how can you possibly ask other people for money to fund your ideas if you
Mm.
don't know where your own money is going? And so through this exercise, not only did I become very planful in my financial stewardship for my own life, I also was very clear on defining what enough looked like. And
Mm.
so, you know, before we got married, my husband and I sat down and I said, like, here's what I want my life to be about. And I want to take our children all over the planet doing community service. And I want to do that at home. And continuing education and staying curious and hungry matters to me. And here's what
Mm.
that looks like. And here's how
Mm.
I've financially thought about that. And so having, it may look different for different people, but having a sense for myself of what enough looks like made it really fulfilling for me to work toward those goals,
Mm-hmm.
to know when that's enough,
Yeah.
and to receive help where I could advance what I care about in achieving what matters to me most in my life. And that really helped me define and redefine success. And, success means different things to different people. And some of these success categories are very personal,
Mm. Mm.
and some of them are very professional, and it all matters.
Yeah.
And knowing what enough looks like and being able to move that around a bit as life unfolds
Yeah.
is how I've defined and redefined success for myself.
Oh, what a gift to hand
Yes.
the napkins over to you like that. Like I can't think of anything more generous for one human being to do to another. I know that sounds crazy. There probably are other things, but wow,
It's a real,
what a gift.
honestly, it's a real gift. And I look
Oh,
back, I say thank you every time I can. I say thank you. And every time I think about it, and I honestly look back on this napkin plan that's now well documented in other files and forms every 6 months.
I
And
love it.
I make iterations as I need to move through life in the world.
To be able to keep going. I just think this is so beautiful. Wow. Honestly, I just have to say, Carrie, if human beings listening to this right now take nothing else, though you've said so much that's amazing, but they take nothing else but to plan out their life and figure out how they want to financially support that. Wow. I just wish that was a conversation more people were having. I said at the beginning, I couldn't wait to talk to you about money. And I did not think you were going to say that. That is just, wow. I'm just so
Well, and it
happy
doesn't
for
have to
you.
be perfect. It's just
Right.
putting your ideas and dreams down. I understand why that can be scary. And,
Yeah,
mine was on a stack of napkins. It was a first draft. Just start somewhere. It
exactly.
doesn't have to be perfect. The point is to put one foot in front of the other.
I love this so much. Oh my gosh. All right, Carrie. So I know we have people listening who I think we have people who may want to figure out how to invest in other businesses or people who may want to know there are entrepreneurs, they're doing community work, they want more support. If someone's listening and they're like, I need me some more Carrie in my life, where can people find you? Where should people reach out to find you?
So I'm on LinkedIn, my name, Carrie Rich, and you can also check out Global Good Fund, Global Good Amani, and Global Impact Fund. And then on social media, I'm Ms. MS Carrie Rich.
I love it. I love it. Carrie, thank you so much. I really, one, for the work you're doing out in the world. Thank you on behalf of all of us, because I keep saying we all have the power to change the world. So thank you for having the courage to crack a joke in an attendance meeting and follow that up by asking to have that incredible conversation. So thank you on behalf of all of us for doing that. And thank you for spending time with the girlfriends today and inspiring us and reminding us that our dreams do matter and that we can turn our values into velocity. I really appreciate that.
Thank you for having me.